All right, welcome back. I did decide to skip the section on investment in early childhood education just for time's sake. I'll come back to it in another week. But now we're going to look at the approaches in ECE. And if you are in the curriculum development class with me right now, you actually started your quarter talking about these approaches. So this would be a refresher. If you haven't taken 160 yet, or you're not in our ECE program, these might be new to you. But we're going to talk about high scope, developmental interaction approach, Waldorf, Montessori, and the Reggio Emilia approach. So high scope, the philosophy behind high scope is that adults are the facilitators or partners rather than managers or supervisors of the classroom. And so this philosophy or this theory really banks on the teacher as an active partner in the classroom. And is facilitating children's learning. So if you've ever, you would know the difference walking into a high scope classroom as compared to a classroom where teachers are really just managing or supervising children. There's definitely a difference, and this picture kind of sums it up. You could see the teacher is actively involved in the children's activity. But this high scope model really came from the Perry Preschool Project that observed at-risk children over the course of a couple decades. And it began in 1962 at Michigan's Perry School, and the participants showed great benefits. There was a high return on investment. So I know I just skipped the investment section, but high scope is where we really learned about the return on investment of high quality early learning programs. And what this model showed or uncovered was that children who were engaged in quality early learning programs were less likely to go to jail. They were more likely to finish high school. They were less likely to engage in risky behaviors in adulthood, and so on. And so this really forged the way for programs like Head Start and programs that really are meant to improve educational outcomes and just life outcomes for children. And we know that it starts in early childhood. We know that those first 5 years of life are the most important. And this research from the Perry Preschool Project really identified that. And with that research, high scope was born. Oh, here we go. This is what I was just telling you. The children that were in the group, you can see they were less likely to be arrested. You could see they were more likely to earn a higher wage, more likely to graduate high school, more likely to have a higher level of basic achievement in life, more likely to turn their homework in at age 15, and more likely to have a higher IQ. Some people think that IQ is fixed. I believe that IQ is a matter of nature and nurture. And so there you can see the benefits of a high quality early learning program and its return on investment. Some key components of high scope include the active learning, the learning environment, a daily routine, the plan, do, review process, so what this looks like, and there's a link here if you wanted to go see it in action. Any of these links, if you just go to the presentation in the module and open up the slides, you can follow these links to see where I got this information from. The plan, do, review cycle is so great, and I think any quality program, I don't care, early learning through 12th grade, I don't care. You could use plan, do, review, and it's going to be effective. But in an early learning classroom, what this looks like is the teacher saying, okay, everybody, we're going to get ready for free choice time. Let's make a plan for what we're going to do. Lisa, what do you think that you want to do today? Oh, I think I want to go play in the block area. Well, that's great. What do you think you'll do at the block area? I really want to build a horse enclosure for my horses. That sounds great. You can go to the block area. And then the child would go and follow out their plan. And then after free choice time, the children would come back and review. How did it go? Did you make your horse enclosure? So they're really thinking deeper about what they did and how they did it. And you could apply this to anything. All right, it's math time. Which math problems do you want to work on first? What's your plan? Okay, go do it. How'd it go? Like, you could really apply this to anything. This does rely on adult-child interaction. There are key developmental indicators that are assessed. There is an assessment system that goes with high scope. and they look at many areas of development, including language and literacy, cognitive development, math, music, all of it. And there is a conflict resolution component to high scope. And then the Bank Street approach, or better known as the developmental interaction approach, came into the world in 1916, and this idea just identified that children learn through exploration of their own communities. So this really is based on teaching through social studies and field trips and learning about the world around you. And this developmental interaction approach takes into account that children make independent choices about activities and learning on a daily basis. So a lot like high scope, right? You have the power to choose what you do in your day, and that learning that happens is important. And there's an emphasis on play, and we're going to do a whole lecture week assignment and fun tasks around the importance of play in this class. But when you think about high quality early learning, they're all play based. And what we know about play is that play is children's work, and that children do their best learning when they're engaged in play because their brains are working and their brains are engaged. This sees children as members of society, as important members of society. And teachers facilitate a democratic community, meaning that there's lots of choice in the day. And there's an emphasis on the why rather than the how. And so think of it like a math problem. You can learn how to do it, but why do you do it? So when I teach math and science for young children, the start of every quarter, I always ask the students, do you know what pi is? And everybody can tell me, yeah, 3.14, blah, 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 blah. Great. Do you know how to find pi? Nobody knows how. And then I'll ask them, do you know why finding pi is important? And nobody can answer, because in school, all we learned was to memorize the facts. So if we look at these high quality early learning programs, they should focus on the why rather than the how. The how will come. The how will come later. But if we focus on the why of a task, that's going to carry over into all other learning. And then we have Waldorf schools, which were started in 1919 by Rudolf Steiner in Germany. And the Waldorf approach focused on hands-on activities, freedom of choice. Are you catching a theme here? Freedom of choice. Moral responsibility and social competence. It's a little bit different than the other programs that we've talked about. They only use natural materials. You will not find computers or electronics in Waldorf schools, and you will only find natural fabrics, no synthetic fabrics. I know, it's very interesting. They serve to create a home-like environment. They teach through oral storytelling. There's a focus on practical activities that have something to do with the real world, so cooking, cleaning, gardening, storytelling. And they're an experiential program, meaning children learn by example and have opportunities for lots of imaginative play. And Waldorf schools are not just for early learning. Waldorf schools tend to be broader, so there's usually early learning all the way through grade 8 and even grade 12. But you can find there is a Waldorf program here in Washington. And there's some information on the Seattle Waldorf School if you want to come back to this. And then Montessori. That is the wrong date. Maria Montessori was an Italian physician, and she believed in children's capabilities and seeing children for who they are and their strengths. She really had a love for children with disabilities and wanted, she saw what was happening in communities where folks with disabilities were being excluded, and their health care was poor, their access to educational opportunities were poor, and their quality of life was less. And she saw that as a huge flaw in society and wanted to fix that. And so she developed an early learning program for mixed age groups of children 2.5 to 6 years old. And she really focused on, again, a choice of play. There were some prescribed options, things that had a beginning, middle, and an end type of activities. She used uninterrupted blocks of work time so that children could really immerse themselves in what they're doing. She had this constructivist or discovery model where children could learn concepts from working with materials rather than through direct instruction, right? I do better when I put my hands on toys. I learn more when I get to do things for myself. And there was kind of a hands-off approach by teachers. So teachers really were kind of like the guide on the side, where they observed children making their own decisions and then offering assistance only when necessary. And she began this as an early learning program, but she really emphasized the care and support for children with disabilities. And eventually the program took form and was accessible to all. So there's some more information about Montessori if you're interested. And then Reggio. So a lot of people think Reggio Emilia is a person, and I'm here to tell you it is not. Reggio Emilia is a place in Italy, and it's post-World War II. And Reggio Loris Malagucci was a contemporary of Maria Montessori, and they're both from Italy. But the Reggio approach stemmed from post-World War II society. The residents in Reggio Emilia took a look at what had happened in society during World War II and said, we don't want this for our children. We want better. We want more. We want them to live in a loving, caring society. And that's where Reggio Emilia really stemmed from. And this idea that children are capable of constructing their own learning, that children learn from an understanding of themselves and their place in the world through their interactions with others, that children are communicators and we need to value and respect them as that. They have important things to say. The environment is the third teacher. The adult is a mentor and guide. There's an emphasis on documenting children's thoughts. And if you're interested, look up The 100 Languages of Children. There's a poem, there's a book. It just helps make sense of how children experience the world. And so if you want more information on Reggio, there's some information. And then programs and early intervention. We're going to pause here and we'll come back to this.